Okon Nachi. Nachi, yes. Ahmedullah. Yeah. A-M-E, yeah. F-U-L-A. Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, Alfred. Good morning, Adiwale. Good morning, Dapo. Good morning, Esther. Good morning, Gladys. Good morning, Liz. Good morning, Mem. Good morning, Isikak. Good morning, Olusheyi. Good morning, Samuel. Good morning, Udo. And good morning, everyone. And welcome to this edition of the webinar, Culture Creation, Building the Workplace You Want. So today we will be having two wonderful people speaking to us. But before we introduce them, let's just do a quick introduction. My name is Adidayo Odurebi, and I'm representing Kimberly Ryan. So welcome, every one of us. We're welcoming you to this program. So basically, this is a snippet of what we'll be looking at, what organization culture is all about, exceptional work culture. We're looking at strategies, we're looking at the types, we're looking at culture creation process, and so on. So basically, so these are what we'll be looking at today. So what will you learn? The foundational strategic importance of organization culture, steps, the role of leadership and HR in shaping culture, tools embedding culture into everyday practices. So these are what you believe, these are what you should be looking forward to. So before we spoke, I know some people, there was a kind of there's a disturb. So please, we'd like you to mute your microphone so that you won't disrupt the class or distract the facilitator speaking. So please, let's remember to turn off our microphones. So if you have questions, raise up your hand and you'll be called upon to speak. And you can also use the chat box to ask your questions. I will respond to you. I will read out your questions to the facilitator to take. So we have with us Temitope Adijo. Temitope is a human resource consultant with over 5 years of experience in consulting, manufacturing, and real estate. She's a wonderful person and she supports business leaders in achieving organization goals through effective HR practices. I'm sure you'll be excited. She's experienced and you would love to hear from Temitope Adijo. And then we have Vivian. For those of us that are returning, you must have seen this face before. You must have been part of an edition. So Vivian is a highly motivated and driven professional with strong expertise in strategic planning, transformational change, and operational efficiency. She has over 15 years of experience, and she's excellent in organization. She's a leader, and she has interpersonal ability. So she's very creative and very, 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 very fluent. I'm sure you would love to hear from Vivian as as we take you on a ride this morning. So don't forget, my name is Adidayo Odoribi, and I'll be coordinating. If you have questions, I'll be reading out your questions. Thank you. And lastly, again, let me reiterate, mute your microphones. So thank you. Thank you. So the next voice you'll be hearing will be that of Temitope Adejo. Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dayo. Thank you so much for that introduction. And good morning, everyone. You're all welcome to this month's webinar, and I hope and believe that you will have a great time learning and keep learning. All right, the topic we are looking at is culture creation, building the workplace you want. And yes, the call to action is here as HR professionals, HR consultants, HR managers, and even business owners. The world has moved from being mechanical, or is it scientific, I'll call it, so a more empathetic, collaborative, and engaging workplace. And so for this webinar, I want us to make it as interactive as possible. Yeah, let us make it as engaging as we can. And let's note down our questions. And at the end of the training, we'll be given the opportunity to ask them. So let me ask first quickly, because of time. What does culture really mean? What can you say is culture? I want us to type it on the chat box. What does culture mean to you? Because of time, I want us to be fast about it. Let's see if there's anyone that is ready to answer that question. All right, 4 key things about culture that we are familiar with, because culture is an old word. Okay, I think I have.
Temitope Oluseyi Peters is saying culture is a way of life. Victoria
Yeah.
Kokatu is saying the way of life. So these are the defined
The way of
culture.
life.
Thank you.
Yes, exactly. You're all correct. And there are 4 key things about culture. One is value, beliefs, but culture has to do with our value system. It has to do with our belief, what we believe in, and practices and the norms. That's the everyday way of what we do. Now, let's go into what organizational culture is. Organizational culture is a system of shared value, just like what culture is. The only difference now is the culture in the organization, and it's a system of shared value, beliefs, and practices that defines an organization identity and guides its behavior. So these values that we have in the organization, these beliefs and the practices that we do in our organization, it guides our identity as a company. It guides our identity as an individual. So take, for instance, there are certain banks that we all know, they have this dress code. It's part of the culture. Once you see any of their employees, you know that this person is from this bank. You automatically know that this person is from that bank. Now, one major thing about culture that we need to know as HR professionals is the need for us to pay attention to our culture, because even if we have a good strategy on ground, with a bad culture, it would affect a lot of things. That is just the truth about it. And also, we need to be intentional in creating the culture we want, right? Because this platform is majorly for HR professionals. And so we'll be delving into what is termed as toxic culture and a positive or good work culture. And so when you're seeing this toxic culture, you can look back at your workplace and say, oh, are we having this in my workplace? How can we work on this? So we have to be intentional about building a positive workplace. And also, as I've said before, culture is about belief systems and our values. And as such, some of the cultures that we have, they are not written in paper. It is not, as a matter of fact, you might have some as your policy that, oh, take for instance, we are meant to resume work by 8 a.m. Some organizations resume by 8 a.m. It's already stated in the offer. It's already stated in the staff handbook, and everybody knows. But then we find out that most of our employees resume 8:30. And the new ones that are just joining the organization, maybe the first 2 weeks, they are trying to gain ground and how they resume at that particular time. And the next month, we are seeing them also resuming at 8:30. That is for you to tell you that most cultures are not even, they are not written. And if we are not intentional in keeping and preserving our culture, we find out that it gets derailed. Now we'll be looking at, also, as it's stated here, Culture is also what guides the way people behave in the organization. It's what guides the way people behave in the organization, and it's often termed how we do our thing. Oh, this is how we do our thing here. This is the way we do our thing here. Yeah. And one thing that we should also note is that culture might be seen as very minute, but it impacts greatly on the bottom line. It impacts on the profit of the organization. It impacts in the performance of the organization. And so therefore, as HR professionals, we are meant to take this intentional. Going forward, we want to look at the difference between a toxic and healthy or positive work culture. Now, a toxic work culture is that work environment that is harmful. It's harmful, it's unproductive, and damaging to the employee's well-being. It's damaging to the employee's well-being, morale, and job satisfaction. It's harmful because it can affect the employee's mental health. It can affect their emotions as well. While unhealthy and positive work culture is that work environment that promotes employees' well-being, engaging, and it's productive. And guess what? A productive environment is a growing environment. Now, what are the differences here? First, we have, for the toxic work culture, we have poor communication. Yeah, poor communication. You have a situation whereby communication is either inadequate or unclear, and employees are not given the avenues to say their mind or hear their views. And so they feel left out or unimportant in decision. While unhealthy work culture is that one that has an open communication, employees are valued, they feel belong, they feel heard, they are respected, and there's cordiality in the system. Also, lack of accountability and recognition. In a toxic work culture, there's often this instance of people not being recognized. They are not being recognized for their contribution. Team members are not being recognized for their contributions. They are not being seen. And even a common thank you from manager to team member goes a long way. It's part of appreciation and showing recognition. While unhealthy work culture, they value reward and effort of employees. Recognition such as Employee of the Month is part of it. Employee of the Year is part of what we are talking about here. Also, unrealistic expectation. For a toxic work culture, we have unrealistic expectation. Employees are often given overloaded work. You understand? Overloaded, thereby leading to burnout and stress. While in a healthy or positive work culture, there is credence to work-life balance. They acknowledge that, okay, this is the time for work and this is the time to rest or to be with family. Also, in a toxic environment, we have favorism and biases. There's preferential treatment. There are people that are treated specially, and there are some that, they are not given any treatment at all. While in Okay, so sorry about that. Please confirm, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hold on.
All right, so sorry about that. That's some network glitch there. All right, so I was talking about unrealistic expectations. And I said for a toxic work environment, you have overloads of work. Overloads of work, thereby leading to burnout and stress for the employee. And trust me, once employees are getting stressed out, once they are getting tensed at work, they don't want to go. They don't want to go to work. You will see them, they will feel like, oh, I need a change of work. And they are not actively engaged anymore. While in a positive environment, there's always a balance between work and life. Also, in a toxic work environment, there's poor leadership. Poor leadership. And this poor leadership, we can see it in the area of authoritarian bosses, line managers, micromanaging team. But in a positive work environment, there's good leadership lifestyle. There's the bosses are supportive, inspiring, and they lead by example. All right, going forward, yeah. So what are the benefits? What's the benefit of this culture that we are talking about? First, it drives employee engagement and retention, and that's the truth about it. I talked about, a toxic work culture where there's burnout as a result of overload of work. But when you have an environment that has a positive work environment, you see the employees are engaged. They are always happy to be at work. They are even ready to do over and above for that organization, thereby leading to retention. Also, it shapes decision-making for the management and also for the employees as well, and behaviors. You understand, it will be very easy for HR to tell this person to fall in line because the system is working well. It influences productivity and innovation. Yeah, because they are engaged, there will definitely be innovative ideas coming in because the employees are engaged. I mean, there would always be opportunity for innovation and creativity. Also, we have strong cultures are linked to better business outcome. Yeah, I've said this before. In fact, is one major thing that we HRs will need to start looking into, that our culture affects our bottom line, which means that it affects our business performance. Take, for instance, a very actively disengaged employee facing clients. You can imagine what will happen. You just try and picture what would happen in such scenario. And also it impacts reputation, the company's reputation and brand identity. All right, moving forward, because of time, they've already started signaling to me, so I need to move fast. Types of organizational culture. Yeah, so literally, we have the clan culture, we have the advocacy culture, we have the market culture, we have the hierarchy culture. Now, this culture, some of this culture, we're already doing them in our organization. But it's for us to go back and look at them. Is it working? Is this culture that we are imbibing, is it working for us? Or do we need to infuse a new kind of culture into the system? Because the truth about it, culture changes. It changes over time. It's not static, right? So like the crown culture, it's all about collaboration. It's all about teamwork. It's more like a family-like system. And the idiosyncrasy culture has to do with innovation. You know, this one is more of the Gen Z type of culture. Innovation and adaptability, yes, because it is prone to changes. Then we have the market culture, that is competitive and results-driven. So this culture, it is not one hat fits all. You can always add like 2 to 3, depending on the one that fits your organization, vision, and the organization goals and mission, as the case may be. Going forward. All right, so yeah, now let's look at the process by which we can work on this culture. First, you have to be able to design the kind of culture that you want. You are the custodian of the culture. We HR people, we are the architect, we are the chief architect of this culture. We are the custodian. So design the type of culture you want. You've noticed there are some toxicity in your system. We've already stated some examples of a good work culture. So desire the kind of culture you want. Pinpoint those areas, those ones that you need to remove and those that you need to include. Assess the culture, the current culture, the one that you currently doing in your organization. Assess it. As I've said, remove those that you feel is not working well and see how you can include those that will better the organization. Develop a culture strategy, communicate and engage employee. There is need for you to communicate. As a matter of fact, you need to involve the stakeholders. You need to have their buy on this culture because you alone cannot do it. You need their buy-in. You need the buy-in of the management. You need the buy-in of the heads of departments because they are the ones that will champion this culture. They are part of the people that will champion this culture. All right, so let's see how we can define the desired culture that we are talking about. Going forward. All right, So there are some questions that you need to consider when you are defining that desired culture that you want. What are our core value? Your core value, your mission, vision statement, your beliefs. Also, what kind of environment do you want to create? Also, how do you want to interact? How do we want to interact with ourselves in the organization? How do we want to interact with customers as well? These are some of the questions that you need to ask. Now, assessing the current culture, what are the methods that you can use? You can go through employee survey, do an employee survey with your team, do feedback with them, or you can do a focus group, right? And also an interview section. Exit interview also work. Yeah, exit interview as well. Observation and walkthrough as well. Review of your policy, that's the policy that you already have on ground. A review of it as well can help with assessing the culture. Now, communicating and engaging the employees. Like I've said, you need the buy-in of the stakeholders. The buy-in of the management is key. So have a clear and transparent communication. Let them know what we are trying to achieve. Regular feedback and updates. Employees, ambassadors, and champions. Yeah, when we're talking of it, there have to be culture champions, people that are like influencers in the organization. They might not be managers like that, but they are people that can help to influence others to toe the line of what you're trying to achieve with the culture of the organization. Recognition and reward program. Yes, you can put up, recognition. Oh, the best person that, or the most, the person that comes in on time to work. Maybe you are having this issue of lateness. You understand? Timeliness to work is part of it. All right, so embedding the culture. How do we embed the culture? What are the strategies that we need to embed the culture? What are the tactics that we want to use? Develop policies and practices that support the culture. Develop policies and practices that have, whatever policies that you have, you can always inculcate the culture that you want to create into that policy. Provide training and development opportunity. Yeah, everybody is not the same. So you need to keep training and retraining on this culture that you want to achieve in the organization. Recognize and reward desired behavior. This I've already mentioned. Then lead by example. Leadership by example, particularly the stakeholders now, because you already have their buy-in, it's easy for them to always to know how to cushion themselves because, oh, this is what we want to achieve. They will be able to cushion themselves to lead by example. And believe me, if leaders are leading by example, it is very easy for team members and the rest of them to follow. It will be very easy. All right, going forward, monitoring and evaluating process. Now, you can do that through some metrics. We have like the retention and turnover rates, because there is nobody that wants to stay in a toxic environment, right? So one characteristic of a toxic environment, you would always see turnover. There's always great attrition in that place. So if you've started the culture now and you want to monitor the progress, you can use your retention and turnover rate as your metrics. You can also use customer satisfaction and loyalty as well to see how well the employees are treating customers. Also, customer business performance indicator. Business performance indicators will show how well the business is running. Okay. So yeah, I think I would put a pause to my slide for now. I'll be handing over to my senior colleague, Vivian. But before then, I want to ask a question, a very interesting question. As we all know, HR is the custodian of this culture, right? And we are the culture architects. I want to ask, what existing culture, or sorry, what existing strategy do we have in our various organizations that align with our culture? What existing strategy do we have in our various organizations that align with our culture? So you can put your answers on the chat box and Dio will read them out. Thank you so much for having me now. Over to you, Vivian.
Thank you so much, Timmy. That was very great and insightful. So Dayo, please help us read any responses we have so far to that question. What existing strategies or what strategies do we have in place to push our culture in initiatives in our various organizations? Do we have any responses? Does anyone want to unmute and speak? Any responses, Dayo?
Not yet.
Okay, I guess we just move on to, we'll be coming back to taking more comments, feedback, and questions from everyone on this meeting. So good morning. I hope yes, good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us this month again for this critical topic that we are talking about, which is culture, building the desired workplace the workplace that you desire. So we'll be diving right into this slide, speaking about how strategic HR is a cultural architect. As Temi has already mentioned while she spoke, HR professionals are the architects behind the culture. We are the ones who design the desired culture that we want. And we are the ones basically, when you're an architect, you want to see that your designs come to life. So what do we need to do as HR professionals to achieve that? We have to first align our talent practices with our cultural goals. We have already set this design. We have clearly defined our goals, as what we want to achieve in terms of our culture. So what we need to do now is to ensure that all our talent practices, from recruitment, onboarding, training, performance management, every single thing that has to do with managing our talents aligns with our cultural goals. And the next is to make sure that we are facilitating the learning and development programs. We are ensuring that learning is continuous in the system and people are continuously learning and improving and developing the right skills that they need to be culturally fit with our cultural goals. Next is we're going to be coaching leaders to ensure that they are modeling the desired culture. And when we talk about leaders in terms of culture, we're not just only referring to senior management, we're referring to every single person in the organization, because we have leaders amongst teams, we have leaders amongst departments, and we want to ensure that these leaders are properly coached in the right skill sets that is speaking to our Sincere apologies. Please, the network seems to have thrown me out. I hope everyone can see and hear me now. I'll just go back to continue immediately. Sincere apologies once again. Right. So the last part on this slide is to be embed culture in performance management. So like I rightly said, we're going to make sure that all our talent practices align with our cultural goals and values that we have already defined. So when we're having our performance management appraisals, check-ins, we are making sure that employees, as well as managers, leaders, everyone basically that has a role to play in the organization, is aligning with our cultural goals and values. Now, how do we build a culture that fosters growth? This is very important because also, as Temi mentioned earlier while she spoke, our culture is very critical because it actually affects our bottom line. The ripple effects that comes from our culture is very, very impactful. So we need to ensure that we have a culture that fosters growth amongst our employees so that our employees are growing. And, I always believe that once an employee is engaged, an employee is growing in their own personal goals and aspirations, they're going to also reflect that in their work. It's going to reflect in their work. It's going to reflect in how they relate with your clients, with your customers. So we need to ensure that we are building a culture that fosters growth. And how do we do this? First, we have already mentioned that we define clear vision and clear values in terms of what our culture is, what is the desired workplace that we want. So then we need to ensure that we have leadership leading by example. And our leaders leading by example goes beyond just the management. Like I had said earlier, we have leaders in teams. We need to be able to identify cultural champions that would drive the culture. We need to be able to as well empower and give employees autonomy. Let them be able to make decisions. Let them be
Politician
able to.
wahala. So they are refusing.
Sorry,
So they
can we mute our mics, please?
Or they
I'm hearing
judge.
some distraction.
So because they refer
Okay, so
everywhere.
like I was saying, we should be able to empower employees to be able to make decisions, to be able to take actions, and be able to be creative and innovative on their own so that employees are very engaged and they're able to be very productive at the same time. We should be able to recognize and reward. Employees want to feel recognized. They want to feel like their contributions to the organization actually is being seen, they are being heard, and they are being rewarded for all their inputs and contributions. Then we should be able to embrace failures and mistake. We should be able to build a culture where we understand that we are first human beings before we are whatever title we are. This person is first a human being before he's a CFO. She is first a human being before she is the head of whatever department. And that means that she's going to be prone to making mistakes and prone to making some kind of having some kind of weaknesses. So now a culture that embraces such failures and mistakes and leverage on the opportunity to learn from that is going to be a culture, an environment that fosters a very engaging and open culture, a very engaging and open employees, because they know that if I make a mistake on this, I'm going to be heard, I'm going to be seen and understood, and I'm going to be given the opportunity to learn and improve. Also, we have open communication. This has been said. It's very important that we leave our communication loops open so that people are able to give feedback, and then we encourage continuous learning. Now, the next slide, speaking of continuous learning, how do we make learning a daily habit? To foster our culture, we need to ensure that learning is a daily habit in our organization. And how do we do this? Is by incorporating learning in everyday activities. We need to also understand that learning is not just or exclusive to top performers alone. No, learning is for every single member of the organization, from the very top to the very bottom. If you think your security at your organization does not need to be part of your learning plan, then you know that you have a bit of problem, because anybody coming into the organization is going to first pass from your security. I go to some banks and I'm always, sometimes I get really impressed when I see the security. They're like very polite. They greet you. They show you where to park. They help you at the ATM if you don't know how to use it. If you have any issue, they come to you and they speak very politely and very nicely. And that is culture. Already you feel like if I go, and sometimes it might not even be the entire bank, it might be a particular branch, and you find that I want to go to that branch because the security guards there are always really nice and they will usher me in. It could be just that little thing. So we need to understand that learning is very important and critical for every single member of our organization. And we need to embed learning into our daily workflows. We can do this by not just waiting for when you have a training program. No, you can embed learning into our daily workflows. As something is happening and we get feedback, maybe from a customer, from a client, we're asking, okay, what did we learn from this? Did we learn anything? Can we write that down? Can we, have more brainstorming sessions on it afterwards? So that's how we embed learning into our daily workflows. Now we use accessible tools that are accessible to all staff. So we can have maybe whatever technology that we use. We can have a tip of the day, for example. We do that here at Kimberly, right? Where we have every morning we have a tip of the day where somebody is learning something new. And when it started, it was just like, this email is disturbing me every morning. Who is this person sending this email? Until somebody made a comment to say, I learned this from our tip of the day email. And I was like, oh, really? Is that impactful? So we can use this, maybe if you're using Slack or whatever HR system or technology that you use, you're leveraging it to learn, to share learning tips for organizations or for the employees every day. Now we also have encourage and learning from mentors or from encourage learning from your mistakes. Like I said earlier, we need to ensure that we created an environment where mistakes are not something that is impulsive. Mistakes are opportunities to grow. Mistakes is your opportunity to learn and to improve yourself. So we'll be looking at what derails cultural transformation. So yes, we have defined our culture, we have communicated, we are speaking all the fantastic English that we should be speaking, but sometimes there could be a hindrance to culture. And this can be a misalignment, for example, misalignment between the stated values and leadership behavior. So when we say lead by example, this is what we mean. When we have something that we have we've all communicated that this is how we want our culture to be, and then we have our leaders not keeping to that can be very discouraging. Temi rightly gave an example where there's a resumption time, but then you see people coming in by 8:30. That just becomes the culture of the environment, and everybody begins to run with it. After all, so and so came by this time, so why should I bother myself? I mean, that's the culture. So leadership behavior is very important. Lack of consistency in reinforcement. Again, this is speaking to behavior by people. When you have set goals, cultural goals and values that we have defined, and then there's no consistency in reinforcing it. Today we are like, this is what we're going to do, but tomorrow we slack on it. That is going to derail our culture because people will seem to take it that we are not serious, so why should I even bother? Overlooking middle managers. Now, sometimes it's easy to overlook middle managers because we are looking at the top and at the bottom. We are looking at the senior management and we are looking at the entry level, the junior staff, because we need to groom them and help them to grow. And then we begin to miss the middle managers who are very critical because that is where we have a leadership pipeline you're developing for your organization. So we need to make sure that we are not overlooking them. And we have no accountability or feedback. Again, we're speaking to behavior where people are not keeping to the delayed cultural values that we have been defined. Now, these are things that can derail our culture, and we need to be able to make sure that we identify these things and address them immediately. Now, we'll be looking at how we track the shifts. When you have identified culture, the desired culture you want to go to, you know where you are, you have identified all the misalignment and all the cultural issues that are being faced in the organization, and then you have defined where you want to be. We should be able to, from time to time, track the shifts to ensure and to gauge, are we succeeding in this? Do we need to change anything? So once in a while, we have cultural surveys and engagements with employees and be able to identify if there's any shifts in terms of behavior. Have we shifted from point A to B, or are we still where we are? Or are we even, worse than where we started from? Then we'll be looking at retention and turnover rates. Are people resigning? Are people staying back? Are people happy to be working with us? These are things we need to, these are the tracking metrics that we need to put in place to check if our culture transformation is being implemented successfully. We have a 360-degree feedback where we are getting feedback from both ends. I'm giving you feedback, you're giving me feedback, and I'm able to, or we are able to gauge where we are and see if we are progressing at all. Then we also have stories and yes, okay, so business performance indicators, as Temi mentioned already. How is the business doing? Is the business progressing? Is the business succeeding? Because culture affects your bottom line in very impactfully. So we need to be able to check that. We'll be looking briefly now at an example of the culture transformation that we did for a client. This is a client that was in the manufacturing space, and they came to us saying that they needed to have a culture transformation project in the organization because they had observed a whole lot of issues that triggered the need for this transformation. There was a huge increase in employee turnover. Employees were resigning from the organization like on a daily basis. They had to always replace that increased recruitment cost. There was very poor engagement for the employees that were still within the organization. If you speak to any of them, when we conducted surveys, the feedback was a case of, I'm just passing time here. When I come to work, I'm just looking for a job. I can't wait to leave this place. So those are the issues that triggered the need for this cultural transformation in this organization. And the first thing that we did was to run a culture diagnostic. We needed to find out what exactly is the situation, what exactly is triggering all of these behaviors from the employees. And from the surveys that we conducted, because we had to conduct surveys, employee focus groups, a lot of conversations were had, and we got a whole lot of feedback from the employees. And these were feedback that actually made them to lose trust. They lost trust in the organization. They felt like there was no communication channel. They were not able to speak to anyone to air their views. And it's really impacted on the organization because sales had dropped. There was a whole lot of complaints from clients and customers, basically, because it was manufacturing and they had a very massive showroom where they were displaying their products, but they were not able to close sales. Even though people were walking in, there was that disconnect between the employees and the clients and the customers, and in fact, the bottom line of the organization had dropped. So by the time we got all this feedback, we were able to share it with the management. We were able to then define the culture that would be a good fit. Of course, carrying everyone along because it is their organization and they are the people in it and they know the kind of culture that they would like to have. So that culture was defined and then the values were outlined, and then we began to communicate these values to the people. And one beautiful thing that was done was that the leaders, the management team, the buy-in was very massive. They embodied these values by themselves, and they were able to communicate what the desired changes that they needed, not just by verbal communication, but by body language. You have management coming in to sit down with the team, wanting to hear them out and understand how they were feeling. And then all of this had a very massive impact on their employees, because after a couple of months of implementing culture transformation strategies and initiatives, where we had culture champions, we had various communication channels, there were various workshops and activities where we spoke to the people and helped them to understand the core values. We began to see a very, very huge decline in employee turnover. People were beginning to stay in the organization and to believe that they were part of something bigger than just the organization, because they bought into the goals and the values and the vision of the organization because of this cultural transformation. There was also a very huge increase in employee engagement and productivity, which goes to show how the ripple effect of culture mattered. So from walking into a store where you had disgruntled employees attending to customers very flippantly, we had more engaged employees who were more professional and able to manage their customers and increase sales for the organization. So this is a live example of a cultural transformation that we had for a client of ours and how impactful it is. And this goes a long way to show that culture is a very, very important aspect of our business. Now, practical steps for culture creation. I'm just going to run through this because Temi has already mentioned it. You assess your current state, where you have it's like we did in the case study I mentioned, we did a check to see where we are. Run surveys, did focus groups, speak to people, speak to your employees, give them opportunity to air themselves. Then we define the culture that you want. You align leadership and HR systems. We talked about making sure that our HR practices, recruitment, onboarding, training, whatever it is that has to do with employee is aligned with our cultural values. Then we talk about communication. It's very, very important to communicate. And then we measure, we adapt, and we reinforce. We get to change where necessary. Now, culture is everyone's job. Yes, we are HR professionals. Yes, we are the architect. Yes, we are the drivers of culture. But it's very important to know that culture belongs to every single member of the organization, because people are leaders. I've said earlier, people are influencers, micro influencers in the spaces where they are. So if that micro influencer does not buy into the values or the culture of the organization, is not going to be able to knowingly or unknowingly influence positively the people that are next to him or her. So this is why we should make sure that we encourage people to be our cultural champions. Culture is not just a one-time project. It is a continuous, because it's a way of life. Like we said earlier when we started the session, we need to make sure that it's a continuous effort. Yes, it requires consistent efforts and leadership. Is a great culture attracts, engages the right talent. That's what we need to understand, and it definitely will affect your bottom line as a business. So, in conclusion, I'll just be saying that culture creation is a very, very it's deliberate and ongoing process. It's not something that is one-off. It's something that we have to continuously keep doing. We have to continuously keep reminding ourselves as HR professionals that we are the drivers and the architect of the culture of our organization. We are leading by example. We are showing people the way we want our workplace to be, so that we have a positive and healthy workplace where people enjoy their job. They actually enjoy what they do, even if they're going to transition into something else or leave the organization eventually for somewhere else. When they do leave, they are brand ambassadors for that organization. Because when I worked at ABC Limited, I enjoyed myself. I loved my bosses. I loved my co-workers. I loved the culture in that space. And that is what we need to aim to and achieve as HR professionals. I'll just end by saying Peter Drucker. He said culture is strategy for breakfast. So we always say that, flippantly, culture is strategies for breakfast. But we need to reflect on that saying and actually understand that we can have the best plans, you can have the best strategy, you can have the best ideas. But if you don't have the right culture in the organization to drive that, it's basically going to it's basically going to not encourage all of that dreams and aspirations and strategy that we have. So my call to action for everyone on the call today is to, as we leave here today, we're going to be thinking, what is the desired workplace that we want? What is the desired culture that I want in my organization? And how can I get there? What can I do to achieve that? How can I be that change in my organization? And this is where I will be ending it, and I'll be hoping to get questions, feedback, comments from everyone on the call. Thank you very, very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Vivian. That was very, very insightful. Yeah, I think we have a couple of questions in the chat box. So earlier, Sylvia Solomon asked, what do you do when the culture is damaged? How do you revive it? So did you get that, Vivian? Hello, Vivian. Did you get that?
Sorry, Dio, could you say that again? I can't seem to hear you. I can't seem to hear you, Dio.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
All right. So Sylvia Solomon is asking, what do you do when the culture is damaged? How do you revive it? She asked this earlier. Yeah, so I don't know if you have a response to that.
Okay, so basically, if you say the culture is damaged, now that is really critical. But again, it's going to be as myself and Temi have mentioned in our conversations today. That means you have done some kind of check to see where you are, to see that this culture is not the way to go, right? So the next step would be designing the culture that you want, having conversations with the people that matter, the decision makers. This is the culture that we want. This is where we are. It is not working for us, and this is where we need to be. Then we start to outline the processes. How do we get there? Do we need to start having communication with our employees? Do we need to start, listening to them, hearing them out? Because this is the people in the organization that actually make up this culture, because it's a way of life. It's how we live our lives every day that makes our culture. So it's the people that matter. Do we need to start talking to them? Do we need to make them understand that, we can even have a board in the office that says behaviors to stop, behaviors to adopt. Those are things that just speak to people. And then from there, you can take it step after step. Does that answer your question, please?
Sylvia, are you still with us? Does that answer your question? Oh, yes, it does. Sylvia has responded. Thank you. So
Okay,
does anybody
all right.
have any other question? If you have any other question, you can unmute and speak. Or if you can't, you can just type on the chat box. So let's do this in like 2-3 minutes, and then we close. So do you have questions, please? Questions, anyone? If you have questions, please raise your hand, and then Vivian will take your question. Okay, okay. All right. So thank you, everyone. So I guess there's no question. We'll still wait for under 1 minute. Do you have questions? Write them down if you can't speak. We'll take it. Okay, yes. Sylvia Solomon is also asking. She's asking if, oh yes, we do. All right. So we'll contact you at the end of the training, and then we will send some documents to you and the like. So thank you, Sylvia Solomon, for that question. Yeah, we do. All right. All right. So if that's the last question, would be closing at the moment. So thank you everyone for joining us. Like more questions are coming in. Okay, what do we do when staff take your work culture for granted? So Happiness Chidima is asking, what do you do when staff take your work culture for granted?
All right, thank you so much, Happiness, for that question. That happens, of course, because they say when you give somebody a handshake, they go for an arm's length. I'm sorry, I don't remember how the saying goes, but that happens because people will be people, and this is where we need to also ensure that we have policies in place to support our culture. Like Timmy mentioned when she was speaking, where we have an 8 a.m. resumption time. And maybe in your documentation, you have put 8 a.m. resumption time, grace period of maybe 15 or 30 minutes. And then you have employees taking that for granted. Okay, they're going to give me a grace period anyway. Or you know that you have an unwritten culture where if you come late, your organization is very understanding because we live in Lagos and there is traffic and all of that. But we need to ensure that we have policies in place to support every culture that we have put in place. It may not be possible to have it written all at the same time, but as occurrences happen, we are documenting and ensuring that there are policies to support that. Policies that clearly states where employees will go wrong, policies that clearly state penalties where necessary, so that everybody understands that, yes, we are a very lenient and understanding workplace, but there are boundaries that you should not cross. And this should be communicated to the employees from time to time. I hope that answers your question, Happiness.
Oh. All right. Okay, Happiness, do you want to respond? Did she answer your question? Okay. So yeah, on that question from Olufunke Adio, what practical ways to change behaviors and reinforce it? What practical ways to change behavior and reinforce it?
Sorry, say that again. What practical ways?
What practical ways do you change behavior and reinforce it?
Okay, some practical change. Some practical ways you can change behaviors. I will use our organization for an example. So we have a we had a period where people were not engaging on our social media. We had to keep, please follow us, please like, please this and please that. So that behavior was not helping us. And we had to now put something in place to encourage behavior. We put some form of recognition. We put some form of award and reward for that. So when you do little things to show that if you embody this value, if you embody this behavior, you're going to be seen, you're going to be recognized for it. You're going to be rewarded for it. That's one way. That's one practical way you can actually help people to embody that, that behavior that you're seeking to achieve. Another way is giving them a leadership position. So when people start to, how do I put it, attribute some kind of leadership position or leadership attributes to that value or that behavior, people want to grow. Those who want to grow, they want to excel. So they will want to be associated with that behavior. If you say coming early, for example, means that you're going to lead a meeting, you're going to be given an opportunity to lead a meeting. So you see people would sit up to achieve that behavior. So giving some kind of leverage to say that when you achieve this, when you achieve this behavior, you're going to be rewarded, you're going to be able to have an opportunity to learn, opportunity to grow, opportunity to lead a project, for example. These are ways that we can foster such behaviors. And then, of course, reinforcing it means that as we move along, we are learning new ways to encourage such behaviors. We are learning new ways. We're getting feedback from people on how how we can foster this behavior. And these are just some practical steps that I can think of at the moment. I hope that answers.
All right. Yes, amazing. Thanks. So then I think we have one last question from,
Okay.
we have another question from Sylvia Solomon. Does the structure of the organization relate to culture? If yes, what do we do when the organization structure is not in place in order to set the right culture? Did you get that?
Take it again, please.
Okay. Does the structure of the organization relate to the culture? If yes, what do we do? What do we do when the organization structure is not in place in order to set the right culture?
Okay. Yes, organizational structure actually plays a role in terms of culture because we did mention that culture has to do with the entire end-to-end people that make up the organization. So structure does matter. And if in defining your culture and defining the strategy, the initiatives you want to use to define or implement this culture, you need to actually have structure in place. You need to actually have a structure in place to define it, right? But I don't think culture defines the structure. An organization has to have a structure first that stands, right? And then your culture should be able to work side by side with structure that you have put in place. So if you're trying to have a culture project, for example, you need to have structure on ground. So that is something that you can you look into, and it's going to be part of the process of the cultural transformation anyway, because by the time you are doing a check to see where your current state, by the time you have done a definition of your desired state, desired place where you want to go, your achievement, then you'll be able to start to look at the structures on ground. Who are the management team? Who are the middle managers? Who are the entry level people? What kind of policies do we have? How does the culture play a role here? So it's going to be a part of the entire process when you're going to be doing a cultural transformation. So they both go hand in hand and they're very critical. Even though they are both independent of each other, they do go hand in hand. I hope that answered your question, Siva. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. So yes, Vivian says, Sylvia says, thank you. So that
Thank
will
you
be
so
the
much.
last question. So thank you all for joining. You can check the chat box. We sent you 2 links. One is to give us feedback on how the webinar went. So please, that feedback is very, very, very important to us. So please fill. So once you are done filling, please just type on the chat box that I'm done. I've filled. Just type on the chat box, I'm done. Has been filled. Please just do that. So let's just use like 1-2 minutes to do that. Thank you. All right, and then we also have another link on the chat box. That's the link to our social media pages. So you can just click to be up to date on various activities, things we do, and the like. So please click on it and register. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, and the like. So we need that feedback. We also need your followership. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So please feel I'm still on the call. So once you are done, just type yes, I'm done. I filled it. Thank you. This, so just do that, and then you exit. So let's do that quickly. I'm going to paste the form again, so you can let me do that right now in case you missed it. So thank you everyone for joining. It's been a great time with you guys. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the contributions. Thank you so much. We look forward to having you next month. Next month's webinar will be kind of different. We'll take a different turn. So we'll be having like panelists in the house. We'll be having like top people from various top facilitators from various industries. And then if you have questions to ask them, you can put in your questions and the like. So we have like 4 or 5 people that will be in the house. So it's going to be very, very insightful, very, very interesting. So please try not to miss it. We'll send you a reminder. You'll get email from us about the details to join this panel session that we're having in May. And we look forward to having you there. Please, again, we sent you a feedback form. Please use that link. That feedback is very, very, very important to us. That's why I keep reiterating. I keep going back to it. Please fill that form. Let's get some feedback. In just I think just 3, 4 questions. Yeah, we're not yet bore you. So just answer these questions, and then you can log off. And please, we'll be having a panel session in May. This information will be shared to everyone that has joined. So we look forward to having you join. Thank you. Thank you. I've still not seen any message. I'm expecting to see messages like, oh, hello, I filled it. Hello, I'm done. Thank you. All right. Oh, yes. So Olufunkadio is saying done. So keep it coming. I need more feedback. Once you've done it, just type it done. It's done. Yes, and the like. So thank you. Thank you, Olufunkadio.
If I may, please.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you so much, Dio. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who has been part of our webinar series today. And for the past 1 year, since we started this webinar series, we started last year, as a matter of fact, it's a year now. And in May, we're going to be having, like Dio has said, a session. There's going to be a special session. We're going to be talking about HR as a transformation experts, and I would encourage every one of us to join. We're going to be sending when we do send the slides and the video recordings for this session, we'll be sending the details for that for the May session as well. And in June, I would like to also say that we have a special training for HR professionals. It's called the Strategic HR Leadership Program, and it's going to be holding in June at Radisson. I believe it's from the 18th to the 20th of June at the Radisson Blu here in Victoria Island, Lagos. It's going to be it's a 3-day massive strategic training program where we are hoping to empower HRs to be strategic business partners, because HR is beginning to move from the regular administrative role to a more strategic function. Like we spoke today about culture and how HR is strategic. That is just one of the many topics that are going to be covered in our session in June. So if you have any questions or you're interested in participating at this training in June, please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to Dio, you can reach out to myself or any member of our team via our various channels. We are looking forward to having you both in May and in June. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, Vivian. All right, so please don't forget that feedback is very important to us. So Oluseyi Peter, thank you. Okay, done. Thank you. Fortune, done. Thank you. All right, so please keep it coming, and then you can log off once you are done with the feedback. All right, thank you. Get to feel. Alfred, Ian, I've not gotten a response from you. Jafet, I've not gotten a response from you. Olubusayo, I've not gotten any response from you. Liz, I've not gotten any response from you. Micah, I've not gotten any response from you. Idowu Ekundayo, David Oladipupo, Dapo Olugbade, I've not gotten a response from you. So please fill that feedback form and just type on the chat box that is been done. Done. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Olubusayo. Thank you, Olubusayo. Thank you. So thank you, Chidoke, Fortune. Thank you, Oluseyi Peters. Thank you, Olufunke Adio. The line is still open, so please just keep dropping it. Done. All right, Alfred. Thank you. Thank you, Alfred. Thank you, Alfred. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Japet. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Micah. Thank you. Thank you, Micah. Thank you. Oh, yes. And you too have a nice day, Japet.
This my own that is not submitting. I beg Muna help me. They say they will revert. They've not responded. And then, let me even send it now first.